Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining me this morning. I know there are a lot of places that you could be, and I really appreciate you taking a few minutes to join me on this live to help you discover what strengths might best be driving your leadership. Now, if you don't know me, I'm Jeff Coleman. I'm an executive and leadership coach, and I help CEOs and C-suite executives who feel ineffective and lost to lead authentically in a way that provides them joy, increased team performance, and avoids burnout. Today, I want to help you take a little bit more of a deep dive into what your top strengths may be and how you can start to leverage them more effectively. So my goal for this session is for that you walk away understanding a little bit more of what a top strength is and maybe even a little bit of what it feels like when you're operating in a top strength. Number two, a simple framework that I use to help you kind of spot strengths that you have and the things that might drive your best work. And then two small practical shifts that you can make immediately that hopefully will help you be more intentional with your strengths. So what exactly do I mean when I say a top strength? So one of the things that I do when I do workshops is I love to give people a very simple exercise. And I tell them the one rule of the exercise is you cannot ask me any questions over the instructions once I give them. And so I say, for the next 30 seconds, I'm going to take out a pen and paper, and I want you to write your name. And that's all I give them, and I give them 30 seconds. And then I start asking a few questions. How many of you picked up the pen with your dominant hand? Everyone, all right? Why? Because it's natural, because it's normal. How did it feel when you were writing your name? You hear words like effortless, easy, wrote it very well, you got excellent results. These are all characteristics of when you're operating in a strength. It's something that you're going to do naturally. You're just going to do it oftentimes without thinking. And then what I'll tell them is take that pen and put it in your other hand. Put it in your non-dominant hand. Now, same exercise, write for 30 seconds, your name, go. At the end, I'll then ask them questions, the same questions. How did that feel? Usually you hear awkward, difficult. I had to really think about it. The results were not good, especially when I do it. It's really terrible. And I explained to them, well, that's what it looks like when you're operating in we call them non-patterns, not a weakness. And I'll explain that in just a second, because when we talk about a strength, we're talking about something that's naturally occurring. So the opposite of natural is not weak. It's simply unnatural. If you've ever seen someone, when I was growing up, kids would break their arm, the one that they wrote with, right? And they would always have to learn how to write with the other hand. And typically, depending on how long the cast was on, someone would kind of get the hang of it for a while. But what happened every time that cast came off? I never saw anyone who kept writing the other way. Once that restraint, once that constraint was lifted, they always went back to what was natural. And whenever we're not required to do things in a certain way, when we're allowed to kind of do them in our own natural way, we're always going to do things that align with our strengths, because that's actually where we get all of our best performances. So that's what I mean when I say a top strength. And here's a little bit of a framework that I use to help you sort of figure out, what are some of the strengths that are going to drive your best results. And in my coaching practice, we call them the 5 E's. And I'll list them here: energizing, enjoyable, easy, effective, and experienced in all environments. And I'll explain a little bit about what that means. So number one is energizing, increased energy. Like if you've done something where you're leading in a certain way, or you're doing something, maybe, you're analyzing spreadsheets if you're a data guy, or maybe it's just you're talking to other people if you really like to be around people and you're very relational. At the end of that time, you're not drained, you're actually energized. That may be a hint. It's enjoyable. So you find satisfaction, you enjoy doing whatever it is. Again, it could be something very deliberative where you're reading or you're learning. It could also be something very relational where you're spending time with friends or you're spending time with a large group. So it's enjoyable. It tends to be easy, very natural. In fact, sometimes people may ask you a thing like, how are you doing that? And you may not even be able to explain it. You may be thinking to yourself, I'm not exactly sure how I'm doing this. It's just natural. It's just part of me. It's part of who I am. Number 4, very effective. Like you've probably been told you do X very well. Again, maybe it's you make very good, deliberate decisions by analyzing all the data and making informed decisions. Or it could be you do very well when you start moving in the general direction of where you need to go, and then you do a great job of adjusting on the fly, adjusting as you go. Either one of these are very effective ways of leading. And so you find that in a strength, you're very effective. You get great results. In fact, usually better than anyone else. And in some cases, you may frustrate others because you may do it effortlessly and be very effective, and they're trying really hard and they're just not able to produce the same results. And the final one is E, is experience in all environments. And the reason we say that is because sometimes you'll see that, particularly if it's something job related, you may be doing something which is very dependent on your job. Maybe you run your day in 15-minute increments on a schedule because that's the way sort of your work requires. And you may get very good, you may get pretty good at that. But it's likely, if it's not really a strength, it's probably likely a little bit draining. And then even if you're getting good at it, and then look at it in other environments on the weekend. Do you stick to a strict schedule? If you do, then maybe you have discipline, and maybe you have a ranger where you really like to sort of lay out your time and really operate in that very disciplined fashion. Or you may find, oh man, on a weekend I've got no schedule, no appointments. I love it. And then we would say, well, maybe that's not a strength. It's something that you got good at because your work really required it. So that's a way that you can look at to sort of help look at what strengths kind of look like. And I'm going to give you two kind of quick practical shifts that you can use to kind of help you use the strengths with more intention. And the first one is kind of obvious, but you need to discover what your strengths are. Now, how do you do that? One of the great ways that I talk about all the time is taking an assessment. Now, I think that the Gallup-Clifton Strengths Assessment is hands down the best. I get no commission on this, so if you go and take the Gallup Strengths Assessment, it's about $60 plus or minus, plus some tax. But it's over 34 million people have taken it. All of the top Fortune 500 companies use it in some way. 30 years of research really went into developing that, and I could go on and on about the details of it, but I really think that is probably the best. It gives the most detailed responses. Others that can be helpful, the Myers-Briggs, the DISC, and I think there are probably a few others as well, maybe some lesser known ones that are out there that can help you get a sense for what are your strengths. Another great thing to do, get a coach. And I know that I have coaches. I've worked with coaches. I am a coach. Having a coach sometimes just ask you things or ask you how you did things in the past can do something that you may not do a lot of, which is stop and really think about, what strength am I using? What am I really doing here? And what's worked in the past? Where do I find the most energy? And where is it that I totally lose track of time because I'm so engrossed in something? These are all kind of hints that a coach can help you with that. You can ask a friend, a spouse. Performance evaluations sometimes will be helpful as well to kind of let you know that as you are doing something, this is kind of the feedback that you got, and it may give you some clues as to what your natural strengths are. So once you kind of have figured out what your natural strengths are, then another shift is ask yourself, how can I do more of that? The thing that I identified as a strength, how can I do more of that with my current situation, my current frustration that I'm having? Now I'm going to give you an example, not to put the highlight on me or because my strengths are any better than any other strengths. In fact, Gallup has been asked multiple times, what are the best characteristics or what are the best strengths for a leader? And they over and over again say the data says there is no discernible pattern for what makes a great leader. It's really more leaders understanding who they are and then leading authentically out of that. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about mine and how I would do this exercise with myself. So a couple of my strengths that I'm going to talk a little bit about: relator, command, and competition. These are three of my top 5. So relator is my number one. I like to go deep with people. I really like to understand people. So if I'm faced with a situation or an issue that I really have to make a decision or I'm not quite sure how to go, one of the things I'll lean heavily on are people that I know, because I get to know my team really well. I have mentors, I have coaches, etc., and I know who's really good at what. And so I know how to ask for help. Sometimes it's a little harder than others, but I know how to ask for help. So I'll lean into that relator and lean on people that have helped me. Command number is another one that I have, which I used to joke that I've never met a group that I didn't want to lead. And while that's not entirely true, I do enjoy leading. So oftentimes when I'm struggling, I may find that actually what I'm doing is I'm stepping back and I'm letting others sort of take the reins when really I need to step forward. I need to step up and be the leader that I want to be and that I'm designed to be, and that I typically have good results in doing it. And so I'll lean into that and use that more. And the third one that I'll highlight today is competition. And this is one where, I use it as an example for when you have a strength in all environments. So highly competitive on the job. I'm very competitive on the athletic field. And yes, unfortunately, even at family game nights, very competitive. Sometimes get a little stressed out just because I'm not winning and I have to stop myself. But in this case, like when I'm using a leadership challenge, a competition, sometimes it's very helpful to let the team know, hey, this is where we're racked and stacked with all the other teams. Some teams maybe let's get ahead of them. Let's go farther. Let's go faster. Let's get better results. And let's get out there and let's get ahead of everyone else. And so that energizes me. I tend to energize the rest of my team as well whenever I'm in the kind of that competitive mode. So these are three traits that I would lean into anytime I have an issue, anytime I have a problem or a leadership issue that I'm dealing with. I oftentimes lean into these because these are in my top 5. So they're always there and I use them quite frequently. Now, next week, I'm going to do another one of these popped up lives, and I'm going to talk about non-patterns just a little bit, which, again, a lot of people will call those your weaknesses. They're really the ones kind of at your bottom of your Clifton Strengths assessment. And those we call non-patterns because, again, the opposite of something that's natural is not really a it's weakness. It's something that's not natural. And so these non-patterns are things that don't come. I'll talk a little bit about how to use those. And this is all leading up to a little bit longer LinkedIn Live that I'm doing on December 16th. And it's going to really be designed to help you get a roadmap for how to use your strengths effectively. And what I'm going to really do there is I tend to do a 60 to 90 minute debriefing session with people where I'll take their strengths and I'll highlight some of the things that I see based off of hundreds of hours of coaching, hundreds of clients that I've done through strengths, and I'll help them understand. And I'll take an assessment and I'll break it down and I'll kind of give you an idea of this is what it would look like if I had your strengths in front of me and how I would help you to lead more effectively with your strengths. That's December the 16th. And so if you're interested in that, you can go to my LinkedIn profile. You can find it under events, and I'd love to have you join us there. So hope you found this interesting and have a great Thanksgiving, and we'll hopefully see you soon.